"Sir, your wife checked in yesterday with another man." I said that was impossible. She was home with our kids, but the security footage didn't lie. Neither did her boss's hand on her back. By the time I was done, they both lost everything. Revenge? No, just consequences. My name is Julian Vane. I'm 42 years old. And until 3 days ago, I thought I had it all figured out. Senior account executive at Vance & Stone, one of the biggest advertising firms in Chicago. Good salary, respect for my peers, clients who actually return my calls. Married to Alara, my college sweetheart for 15 years, 2 great kids. Isabel, 13, going on 25, and Hugo, 8 years old, and convinced he's going to be a paleontologist. We had a house in Evanston with a white fence, the golden retriever, the whole package. The American dream, right? I was in Cleveland when everything fell apart. Third day of a 4-day pitch to a manufacturing client who couldn't decide if they wanted to rebrand or just update their logo. Typical corporate indecision, the kind that pays my mortgage. I was staying at the Courtyard downtown. Nothing fancy, just a clean room with a desk and terrible coffee. That morning, I'd been reviewing presentation slides when the phone rang. Hotel line, not my cell. I picked up expecting housekeeping or maybe the front desk asking about checkout. Instead, I got a young guy's voice, nervous, like he was about to tell me my car got towed. "Mr. Vane," the voice said. It was the assistant manager. I'd seen his name tag the day before. Liam or something like that. "Yeah, that's me," I replied, barely looking up from my laptop. There was a pause. Too long. The kind of silence that makes your brain start filling in blanks you don't want filled. "Sir, I need to inform you of something," he continued. And now his voice had that careful quality people use when they're walking on eggshells. "There's been a situation. Your wife, she checked in here yesterday afternoon with another man." I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was absurd. Ridiculous. Impossible. "That's impossible," I told him, my voice steady and certain. "She's home with the kids in Evanston. You got the wrong person." Another pause. Longer this time. I could hear him breathing. I could almost feel his discomfort radiating through the phone line. "Sir," he said, and his voice faltered, losing that professional polish. "I really need you to come down to the lobby, please." The line went dead. I sat there, phone still pressed to my ear, staring at the Cleveland skyline through my window. My hand had gone numb, not from cold, from something else, something that hadn't fully registered yet, but was already working its way through my system like poison. That walk to the elevator was the longest 30 feet of my life. The elevator ride down felt like descending into cold water. Each floor, another layer of pressure building in my chest. I kept my breathing steady, hands loose at my sides, but my mind was running scenarios. Mistaken identity, a coincidence, someone using her name fraudulently. There had to be a rational explanation because the alternative, the one trying to surface in my thoughts, that wasn't possible. Not Alara, not my wife. The lobby was mostly empty, a couple checking out, a businessman on his phone, nobody paying attention to anything. The assistant manager was waiting near the front desk, a kid in his mid-20s with neat hair and a name tag that read Liam. He saw me coming, and his expression shifted, equal parts sympathy and dread. He gestured toward a door marked manager's office, and I followed him without a word. Inside, the actual manager was waiting. Older guy, maybe 55, gray at the temples, the kind of seasoned professional who'd probably handled every awkward situation a hotel could throw at him. He stood when I entered. "Mr. Vane, I'm Henri Fournier, the general manager," he said, extending his hand. I shook it, firm grip. He motioned to a chair. "Please sit down." I sat. Liam closed the door and stood by it, looking like he wanted to be anywhere else. "I apologize for the disturbance," Henri began carefully, "but we have a situation that we felt you needed to be made aware of. Your guy said my wife checked in here." I said, keeping my voice level. "That's not possible. She's in Illinois." Henri exchanged a glance with Liam, then turned to his computer monitor, angling it slightly so I could see. "This is from our security footage yesterday, approximately 4:15 in the afternoon." He hit play. The screen showed the lobby, black and white timestamp in the corner. I watched people move through the frame, and then I saw her. Alara, my wife, walking through the lobby doors wearing her gray pea coat, the one I bought her for Christmas 2 years ago. Her hair was down, and she was smiling. Next to her walked a man I'd never seen before. Tall, fit, probably mid-40s, wearing an expensive suit. They walked close together, comfortable, familiar. I watched them approach the front desk, watched her hand over her ID, watched the man stand behind her with his hand on her lower back, watched her sign the registration, watched them take the key cards, 2 of them, and head toward the elevators. My throat had gone dry. "There's more," Henri said quietly, and he forwarded the footage. Different angle now, the elevator bay. I watched Alara and the man wait for the elevator. Watched her lean into him, watched him kiss the top of her head, watched the elevator doors open and swallow them both. The timestamp read 4:22 p.m. yesterday. At 4:30 yesterday, I'd been on a conference call with a client. I texted Alara around 5 asking how the kids were. She'd replied 20 minutes later, saying Isabel had soccer practice and Hugo was doing homework. She'd sent me a photo of Hugo at the kitchen table with his math book. She'd lied while standing in this hotel. "Do you recognize this man?" Henri asked gently. I stared at the frozen image on screen. The man's face was clear enough. Strong jawline, confident posture, the kind of guy who looked like he belonged in a boardroom. "No," I said. My voice sounded distant, like it was coming from someone else. "I've never seen him before." Henri nodded slowly. The reservation was made under her name. Alara Vane. She used a credit card registered to your household account. Our account. She'd use our money to book a hotel room with another man. I stood up, not abruptly, just deliberately. Both men tensed slightly, probably expecting anger, maybe a scene, but I was too far past that for theatrics. "I need copies of everything," I said calmly. "The footage, the registration, the credit card receipt, all of it." Henri hesitated, then nodded. "I can provide that. Email it to me," I said, pulling out my phone and giving him my personal email, not my work one. "And I need to know what room they are in." Henri hesitated before answering. "Room 1847. But Mr. Vane, I have to advise you that confronting them directly could complicate matters legally." "I'm not going up there," I said, and I meant it. Storming into a hotel room like some jealous husband in a bad movie wasn't my style. Besides, confrontation without preparation was just noise. I needed something more substantial than anger. "I need to know who he is." Henri looked at Liam, who was already pulling up something on a tablet. "The second name on the reservation is Felix Moreau," Liam said. "Corporate card from Creston Pharma." Creston? Alara's company. She'd been working there for 6 years as their marketing director. And suddenly things started clicking into place with sickening clarity. "Pull up his information," I said. Liam tapped the screen, then turned it toward me. There was a business card image, professionally designed. Felix Moreau, Regional Vice President, Creston Pharma. Below that, a LinkedIn profile photo. Same face from the security footage, but now with context. 46 years old according to his bio. MBA from Northwestern. 15 years with the company, based in the Chicago headquarters. Alara's boss, or close to it. Regional VP meant he oversaw several departments, including hers. I pulled out my phone and did my own quick search. Found his company. Profile easily enough. Then I found something more interesting. His personal Facebook page, semi-public. The kind of profile where privacy settings were set by someone who didn't quite understand how the internet worked. There were photos, family photos. Felix Moreau with a blonde woman and 2 teenage boys at a football game. The caption from 3 months ago read, "Go Bears. Nothing better than game day with my beautiful wife Clara and our boys." Clara Moreau, his wife, who had no idea her husband was in Cleveland with another woman. I screenshotted everything. His LinkedIn profile, his Facebook page, his company bio, saved them all to a folder on my phone labeled simply evidence. "Mr. Vane," Henri said carefully, "what do you plan to do with this information?" I looked up at him. "Whatever's necessary to protect my kids and myself legally," he nodded, understanding exactly what I meant. "The video files and documents will be in your email within the hour. Encrypted." "Thank you," I said, standing. I shook his hand again, then Liam's. "I appreciate your discretion." Back in my room, I sat on the edge of the bed and opened my laptop. First, I forwarded all the screenshots to my personal cloud storage, the one Alara didn't have access to. Then, I opened a blank document and started writing down everything I knew. Timeline, facts, evidence, names, dates, credit card transactions. I wasn't a lawyer, but I'd worked with enough of them to know that documentation mattered. Emotions didn't hold up in court. Facts did. My phone buzzed. A text from Alara. How's Cleveland? Kids miss you. Isabel has a science test tomorrow. Love you. I stared at those words. Love you. Sent from a hotel room where she was sleeping with her boss. The audacity of it should have enraged me. But instead, I felt something colder. Resolve. I didn't respond. Not yet. I should have called her right then, demanded answers, forced a confrontation, done what any normal husband would do. But I've never been impulsive. And this wasn't the time to start. Instead, I did something else. Something that had been nagging at the back of my mind since I saw that footage. If Alara was here in Cleveland with Felix Moreau, who the hell was watching Isabel and Hugo? I pulled up my phone and called my mother-in-law Sylvie. She answered on the third ring. Cheerful and unsuspecting. Julian, honey, how's the trip? Sylvie asked, that maternal warmth in her voice that always made me feel welcome, even after 15 years. It's fine, Sylvie. Quick question. Are the kids with you? I kept my tone casual, just checking in with me. No, sweetie. I thought they were with Alara at that conference thing. The family leadership retreat she mentioned. She said it was some new company initiative. Bring your kids to understand work-life balance or something corporate like that. My blood went cold. Conference? What conference? The one in Indianapolis, I think she said. She told me last week it'd all be gone Tuesday through Thursday. Said it was mandatory for directors and above. Sylvie's voice shifted, concern creeping in. Julian, is everything okay? Yeah, everything's fine. I lied smoothly. I must have got my wires crossed. Let me call Alara. I hung up before she could ask more questions. Indianapolis, a family leadership retreat. Complete fiction. I checked the dates. Tuesday through Thursday. Today was Wednesday. The kids have been gone since yesterday. I immediately called Isabel's cell phone. It rang 4 times, then went to voicemail. I tried Hugo's tablet, the one with the tracking app I'd installed after he left it at a friend's house last year. The app loaded slowly, then displayed a message. Device offline, both offline. Isabel never turned off her phone. Never. I called the house landline, knowing it was pointless. It rang until the answering machine picked up. I called St. Mary's Academy, the kids' school. The receptionist answered with her practiced cheerfulness. St. Mary's, how may I help you? This is Julian Vane, Isabel and Hugo Vane's father. Can you confirm if they've been in school this week? Paper shuffled, keys clicked. Let me check, Mr. Vane. A pause. No, sir. Both Isabel and Hugo have been marked absent since Tuesday. We received a note from Mrs. Vane indicating they'd be attending a family educational event. A note? She'd covered her tracks there, too. Thank you, I said, and hung up. My wife had removed our children from school, fabricated a story about a corporate retreat, lied to her mother, and somehow made both kids unreachable. This wasn't just an affair. This was planning, orchestration. She'd moved them somewhere, told no one, and left me in the dark 3 states away. I opened my contacts and scrolled to a name I hadn't called in 2 years. Marcus Brandt, a private investigator I'd worked with on a client case involving corporate espionage. Marcus was thorough, discreet, and expensive. Worth every penny. He answered immediately. Vane, long time. Marcus, I need a favor. Big one. I need to find my kids. Marcus Brandt arrived at my hotel room 90 minutes later. He was exactly how I remembered him. Mid-50s, gray hair, buzzed military short, wearing jeans and a black jacket that probably concealed more than one weapon. He shook my hand with that firm grip that said he'd seen everything and wouldn't be shocked by anything I told him. Talk to me, Marcus said, sitting in the desk chair while I remained standing by the window. I laid it all out. The hotel footage, Felix Moreau, the fabricated story about a retreat, the kids missing from school, the devices offline. I showed him everything on my laptop, every screenshot, every email, every piece of evidence I compiled. Marcus listened without interrupting, his expression neutral, but his eyes sharp. When I finished, He leaned back and exhaled slowly. Your wife didn't just have an affair, Marcus said flatly. She executed a plan. The question is why she moved the kids and where they are now. Can you find them? I asked. I can find anyone, Marcus replied, already pulling out his own laptop. But I need to start with the breadcrumbs. You said the babysitter mentioned something. I nodded. Alara uses a college girl named Chloe Martin. She watches the kids maybe twice a month. I'll call her. Chloe answered on the second ring, sounding young and nervous when I identified myself. Mr. Vane, hi. Is everything okay? Chloe, I need to ask you something important. Did Alara ask you to do anything with Isabel and Hugo this week? A pause. Oh yeah. She asked me to meet someone Monday evening at the Shell station on Route 41. She said it was a family friend who'd drive them the rest of the way to the lake house. My heart rate spiked. Lake house? What lake house? She didn't give me the address. Chloe said quickly, sounding worried now. She just said it was a family thing that you knew about it. The kids seemed excited. They had their backpacks and everything. Chloe described the person who picked them up. A man, maybe late 30s, early 40s. He was wearing a baseball cap and sunglasses. Drove a black SUV, a newer model. He seemed nice. The kids got in without any problems. Did he give you a name? He said his name was Pierre. Said he worked with Mr. Moreau. There it was. Felix Moreau's name directly connected to my children's disappearance. Chloe, thank you. If Alara contacts you, don't mention we talked. I hung up and relayed everything to Marcus, who was already typing rapidly. Shell station on Route 41, Marcus muttered. They'll have security cameras. I'll pull the footage. Get a plate number on that SUV. If this Pierre character works for Moreau, we'll find him through employment records. How long? I asked. Give me 4 hours, Marcus said. Standing. In the meantime, don't contact your wife. Don't tip your hand. If she knows you're onto her, she might move the kids again. He left, and I was alone with my thoughts and a burning question. What was Alara planning? Why remove the kids? Was this about custody? About setting up some narrative where I was the absent father, or was it something worse? My phone buzzed. Another text from Alara. Isabel. Wants to video chat before bed. Can you call in 20 minutes? I stared at that message. She wanted me to video chat with Isabel, but Isabel wasn't home. Isabel was wherever Alara had hidden her. Unless Alara was going to put Isabel on camera from wherever they were, maintaining the lie, I decided to call her bluff. I waited exactly 20 minutes, then initiated a video call to Isabel's phone. It rang 3 times before Isabel's face filled my screen. She was in a bedroom I didn't recognize. Plain white walls, a lamp on a nightstand behind her. Hey, Dad, Isabel said, and she sounded normal. Maybe a little tired, but normal. Hey, sweetheart, I replied, keeping my voice steady and warm. How was your day? Good. We went hiking. Hugo found a frog. She smiled, but there was something in her eyes. Something cautious. Hiking. That sounds fun. Where are you guys? At the lake house, Isabel said, and I caught the slight hesitation. Mom's friend's place. It's pretty nice. Mom's friend, not our friend, not family. Is Mom there? Can I talk to her? She's downstairs making hot chocolate. Want me to get her? No, that's okay. Isabel, honey, can you do me a favor? Can you look out the window and tell me what you see? Isabel glanced off camera, then back at me on trees, a lake. It's pretty dark out. Any houses nearby? Any signs? Street names? Her expression shifted slightly. She was 13, smart enough to realize something was off about these questions. Dad, is everything okay? Everything's fine. I lied. I just miss you guys. Can you put Hugo on? Isabel turned away from the camera and called out. A moment later, Hugo's face appeared, grinning with that gap-toothed smile. Dad, guess what? I caught a frog and it peed on me. Despite everything, I smiled. That's what frogs do, buddy. You having fun? Yeah, but I miss home. When are we coming back? Soon, Hugo. Is Mom taking good care of you? Yeah, but she's been on the phone a lot with that Felix guy. My chest tightened. Felix, you've met him? Yeah, he came by yesterday, brought us pizza. He's okay, I guess. Isabel doesn't like him. Why doesn't Isabel like him? Hugo shrugged. She said he's not Dad. She's been weird. Isabel's voice came from off camera. Sharp and older sibling authoritative. Hugo, Give me the phone. Isabel's face reappeared. Dad, I have to go. Mom's calling us. Okay, baby. I love you. Both of you. Love you too, Isabel said, and the call ended. I sat there staring at the blank screen, my mind processing what I just learned. The kids were a lake house, probably somewhere within driving distance of Chicago. Felix Moreau had visited them. Isabel was uncomfortable, smart enough to sense something wrong. Hugo was oblivious, but had confirmed Felix's involvement. My phone buzzed with Marcus's number. I've got something, Marcus said without preamble. The SUV from the gas station camera belongs to a Pierre Gauthier, 38, works as a facilities coordinator for Creston Pharma. He's on Felix Moreau's direct team. So Felix used a company employee to transport my kids. Looks that way. And I've got more. Property records show Felix owns a vacation home in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. 3 bedrooms, secluded area, purchased 8 years ago. I'd bet money that's where your kids are. Lake Geneva, 2 hours from Chicago. Send me the address. I said. Julian, wait. If you go up there alone, I'm not going alone, I interrupted. But I am going. Those are my children, and I'm bringing them home. Before I left for Lake Geneva, I needed to set one more piece in motion. The kind of move that wouldn't just expose the affair, but would detonate it from the inside. I sat down at my laptop and opened a new email. The recipient was Etienne Dujardin, Chief Operating Officer of Creston Pharma. I met him twice at company events Alara had dragged me to. He was old school corporate, the kind of executive who talked about integrity and accountability like they were religious principles. I kept the email brief and professional. Subject, urgent matter requiring executive attention, Felix Moreau. Mr. Dujardin, I'm writing to bring to your attention a matter involving Felix Moreau, Regional Vice President, that poses significant risk to Creston Pharmaceuticals. Attached, you'll find documented evidence of Mr. Moreau engaging in an inappropriate relationship with a subordinate employee, Alara Vane, Marketing Director. This includes hotel security footage showing both individuals checking into a Cleveland hotel together. Credit card records showing corporate funds used for personal accommodations. Multiple documented instances of similar behavior over a 3-month period. Evidence of Mr. Moreau using company resources and personnel to facilitate personal matters involving my minor children. I'm providing this information not out of personal vindictiveness, but because I believe the company has a right to know when senior leadership engages in conduct that violates corporate policy and potentially exposes Creston to legal liability. I've attached comprehensive documentation. I'm available to discuss this matter at your convenience. Respectfully, Julian Vane. I attached everything. The hotel footage, the registration documents, the credit card charges, screenshots of Felix Moreau's employee profile, property records for the Lake Geneva house, and the gas station footage showing Pierre Gauthier picking up my kids. My finger hovered over the send button for exactly 3 seconds. Then I clicked it. One text, I thought. Well, one email, same principle, one message that would burn down everything they'd built. The email whooshed away into the digital ether. Within minutes, I got a read receipt. Dujardin had opened it. No response yet, but I knew how these things worked. By morning, there'd be lawyers involved. HR investigations, career-ending conversations. I grabbed my jacket and headed for the parking garage. Lake Geneva was 2 hours north, and I was done waiting. The drive gave me time to think, to plan, to let the cold calculations settle in where the anger had been. I wasn't going to storm in and make a scene. I was going to walk in like the father I was, document everything, and remove my children from a situation they never should have been in. Marcus had sent me photos of the property, a nice 2-story cabin with a wraparound porch, nestled in trees about 50 yards from the lake, isolated enough for privacy, accessible enough that someone checking wouldn't need 4-wheel drive. When I pulled up to the property at just after 8 p.m., lights were on inside. 2 cars in the driveway. One was a black SUV, probably the same one from the gas station footage. The other was a silver sedan I didn't recognize. I parked on the road, pulled out my phone, and started recording. Documented the house, the cars, the license plates. Then I called the local police non-emergency line. Walworth County Sheriff, How can I help you? I need to report a custodial issue, I said calmly. My children were removed from Illinois without my knowledge or consent and are currently at a property in Lake Geneva. I'm the father. I have documentation and I need assistance recovering them safely. The deputy arrived 20 minutes later, a young guy named Officer Dubois who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. I met him at his patrol car with my driver's license, documentation showing I was Isabel and Hugo's father, and printouts of everything relevant. Mr. Vane, Officer Dubois said after reviewing the documents. Your children are inside this residence. Yes, sir. My wife removed them from school Monday, fabricated a story about a family trip, and brought them here without informing me. I only discovered their location today. Officer Dubois studied the house, then me. Is there any custody agreement in place? Any restraining orders? No, sir. We're married. No separation. No custody arrangement. No court orders. These are my children, and they were taken without my knowledge. All right, Officer Dubois said. Let me go knock on the door. Verify the children's presence and well-being. You stay here. I nodded and watched him approach the house. He knocked firmly. After a moment, the door opened. A man I recognized from the gas station footage, Pierre Gauthier, stood in the doorway. Officer Dubois spoke to him, showed his badge. I couldn't hear the conversation, but I saw Pierre's body language shift, defensive and uncomfortable. Then Isabel appeared behind Pierre. She saw the police car, saw me standing beside it, and her face lit up. She pushed past Pierre and ran down the porch steps. Dad. I caught her as she reached me, hugged her tight. She was trembling. It's okay, baby, I said quietly. I'm here now. Hugo appeared next, confused but excited, running to me like nothing was wrong. Dad, you came to the lake house. Officer Dubois walked back over, Pierre trailing behind him, looking pale. Mr. Vane, your children are clearly happy to see you and show no signs of distress about leaving with you. Officer Dubois said. Mr. Gauthier here claims he was told by your wife this was an approved family arrangement. It wasn't, I said flatly. And I'd like to take my children home now. You're free to do so, Officer Dubois said. Then he turned to Pierre. Sir, I'd suggest you contact Mrs. Vane and inform her of the situation. Pierre nodded weakly and pulled out his phone. I loaded Isabel and Hugo into my car, buckled them in, and pulled away from that house without looking back. In the rearview mirror, I saw Officer Dubois still talking to Pierre, probably getting a statement. Isabel was quiet in the passenger seat. Hugo was already half asleep in the back. Dad, Isabel said softly. Mom said we were on vacation, but it didn't feel like vacation. She kept crying when she thought we weren't watching. I reached over and squeezed her hand. It's over now, Em. We're going home. My phone rang. Alara's number. I let it go to voicemail. Then it rang again and again. Finally, I answered. Put on speaker. Julian, what the hell did you do? Alara's voice was shrill, panicked. Pierre just called me. You took the kids. I recovered my children. I corrected. The ones you removed from school and hid in Wisconsin without telling me. You had no right. I had every right. I'm their father and Alara. Check your work email. You're going to want to talk to HR soon. I hung up before she could respond. The meeting happened 3 days after I brought the kids home. Not in some dramatic courtroom scene, but in a sterile conference room at the offices of Elena Rossi and Associates, the law firm I'd retained within hours of returning to Evanston. My attorney, Elena Rossi, was a shark in a business suit, 50-something with silver hair and a reputation for dismantling opposing counsel. Alara sat across from me with her own lawyer, a younger guy named Gavin Shaw, who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Alara's face was pale, makeup barely hiding the dark circles under her eyes. She wouldn't meet my gaze. Elena laid out the terms with surgical precision. Full custody of Isabel and Hugo to me, with supervised visitation for Alara. The house would be sold, proceeds split evenly, retirement accounts divided per Illinois law, no alimony given the circumstances, and a comprehensive non-disclosure agreement protecting the children from any public discussion of the affair. This is outrageous, Gavin started, but Alara put her hand on his arm. It's over, she said quietly. Just give me a pen. She signed every document without argument. Her hand shook, but she signed. After they left, Elena looked at me. That was easier than I expected. She didn't have a choice, I said. Preston fired her and Felix Moreau last week. His wife Clara filed for divorce the day after I sent that email. Turns out her father is a federal judge. Felix is being sued for misuse of company resources. Elera's career in pharmaceutical marketing is done. She knows fighting me would just make it worse. What about the kids? Elena asked. Isabel is in therapy. Hugo thinks we're just taking a break from mom. They're resilient. They'll be okay. I drove home that afternoon feeling something I hadn't felt in weeks. Not happiness. Exactly, but relief, the kind that comes from knowing you did everything right, everything by the book, and still won. Isabel was at the kitchen table doing homework when I got home. She looked up as I entered. Is it done? She asked. At 13, she understood more than I wish she had to. It's done, I confirmed. You and Hugo stay with me. Mom can visit, but we're the primary home now. Isabel nodded slowly. Dad, I found something on my phone last week. Mom had been recording voice memos. She was practicing what to say to a lawyer about you being gone all the time. She was planning this for months. I sat down next to her. Isabel, your mom made choices, bad ones. But that doesn't mean she doesn't love you and Hugo. It just means sometimes adults mess up badly. Do you still love her? I thought about that question. I love who I thought she was. That person doesn't exist anymore. 10 months later, I stood in the bleachers at Isabel's soccer game, watching her score the winning goal. She'd grown 3 inches, made the varsity team as an 8th grader, and smiled more in the past few months than she had in the previous year. Hugo sat next to me, his attention split between a dinosaur book and a game. He'd adjusted faster than Isabel, the way young kids do. He saw Elera every other weekend, supervised visits at his grandmother's house. He didn't ask too many questions anymore. Nice shot, Em. A voice called from beside me. I turned to see Audrey Lefevre, another soccer parent I've been talking to for the past month. She taught chemistry at the high school, had a 12-year-old daughter on Isabel's team, and had been divorced for 3 years. We'd started with small talk at games, progressed to coffee, and last week an actual dinner date. Your daughter's really talented, Audrey said, smiling at me. She works hard, I replied. Takes after her old man. Audrey laughed. She had an easy laugh. Genuine. Nothing like the calculated charm Elera used to deploy. So, are we still on for Saturday? The kids want to check out that new science museum? Audrey asked. Absolutely. Hugo has been talking about it all week. Isabel jogged over after the game, sweaty and triumphant. Did you see that goal, Dad? Best thing I've seen all week, I said, hugging her despite her protests about being gross and sweaty. She noticed Audrey and gave me a look. The kind of look that said she knew exactly what was developing here and provisionally approved. Later that evening, after Hugo was asleep and Isabel was in her room doing homework, I stood in my kitchen making coffee and thought about the past year. The betrayal, the investigation, the legal battles, all of it had been necessary. Painful, but necessary. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus Brandt. Saw the game. Em is killing it. Lunch next week. I smiled and replied, absolutely. Thanks for everything. Marcus had become something of a friend over the past months. Turned out shared trauma created bonds. I walked to Isabel's door and knocked. You good, kiddo? She looked up from her laptop. Yeah, Dad, I'm good. Actually good. Me too, Em. Me too. I closed her door and walked downstairs, poured my coffee, and sat on the back porch. The house was quiet, peaceful mine. Somewhere across town, Elera was living in a small apartment, working part-time at a medical supply company, and trying to rebuild a life she'd demolished with her own choices. I didn't hate her. I didn't think about her much at all anymore. Felix Moreau had lost everything. His job, his marriage, his reputation. Last I heard, Clara had taken him for everything in the divorce. His own kids barely spoke to him. Consequences. I finished my coffee and went back inside. Tomorrow I had a client presentation. Isabel had practice. Hugo had a play date. Life normal and stable. Exactly what my kids needed. The doorbell rang. Audrey stood there with a casserole dish. I made too much lasagna, she said with a grin. Thought you might want some. I stepped aside to let her in. Perfect timing.